Hi, this is Michael Venema, and welcome back to my channel, Pathways to God and Significance. In these Pathways videos, what I've been doing recently is doing a sequential look at Mark's version of the life of Jesus. We have four versions: Matthew, Mark's, Luke's, and John's. Four versions of the life of Jesus, and four portraits, you might say, and together they provide us with a very rich and compelling portrait of Jesus, his work, his ministry, and all that he did and who he was. Mark especially likes to emphasize the power of Jesus Christ. In Mark, Jesus acts with the power of God. He receives power from the Holy Spirit at his baptism, and in power he faces Satan in the desert and overcomes his temptations. And then also at his baptism, God authorizes Jesus. So Jesus goes out not only with power, but also with God's authority. He has authority over evil spirits, over physical diseases. He has power and authority to forgive sins. And all of that emerges in just the first chapter of Mark. And then in story after story, Mark reinforces this picture of Jesus as a figure full of the power of the Jewish God, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the God of the Jewish Scriptures, the Old Testament in Christian understanding. So by the time we get to the end of Mark 4, Jesus has power even over the wind and the waves, over a storm. He calms it. So our reading is today from the beginning of Mark 5, and here too we will see the authority and power of Jesus on display once again. So I'm going to read it through section by section and make comments as we go along, and hopefully this will be a big help to you. So they went across the lake to the region of the Gerasenes, and when Jesus got out of the boat, a man with an impure spirit came from the tombs to meet him. This man lived in the tombs, and no one could bind him anymore, not even with a chain, for he had often been chained hand and foot, but he tore the chains apart and broke the irons on his feet. No one was strong enough to subdue him. Night and day among the tombs and in the hills, he would cry out and cut himself with stones. So here we see that no one was strong enough to subdue this spirit that was present in the man, cutting himself, living among the bodies of the dead. He made a lot of racket. People had chained him up, but the evil spirit was strong enough to break those chains. These are not just little chains like we would have around our necks at times, but these would be, something a little more substantial. The kind of chains that people in those days might find in prisons to shackle people, or, some of the more substantial chains you can buy in your local hardware store. So this is a strong man, so to speak. Let's see how Jesus does as he's confronted by this strong man, this strong spirit. And here I want to ask, are demons real? Are demons real? When this man, I'm reading now, when this man saw Jesus from a distance, he ran and fell on his knees in front of him, and he shouted at the top of his voice, "What do you want with me, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? In God's name, don't torture me." For Jesus had said to him, "Come out of this man, you unclean spirit." So, Jesus had told the spirit to come out, and the man, moved by the evil spirit within him, screaming back at Jesus, a lot of things, but ending with, "Don't torture me." Now, sometimes people talk about evil spirits as if these are just imaginary things and don't really exist, that these are things that people in ancient times believed when they didn't have psychologists and psychiatrists and sociologists to explain to them that they are not possessed, that they are maybe just mentally ill, or that there are other things happening in society which are motivating them to act in certain ways. But there's a number of issues here, and here's one thing, just to get us started. It doesn't resolve everything, but in Mark, the evil spirits have personalities. They're not just a bundle of irrational emotions or uncontrolled behaviors. They can be bold in speaking with Jesus, and they even negotiate with Jesus. And Jesus answers back to them. There's an exchange of words between the person of Jesus and the personality of this evil spirit. And another thing about whether or not demons are real, when you get a chance, go on YouTube and watch films of Hitler's Nuremberg rallies. Or watch videos of some of the mob violence and protest taking place on the streets of North America and European cities. Or consider gruesome crimes like the Bernardo rapes and killings in Ontario, Canada, some years back. Or think about people who have poured their love and their hopes into their children, only to have the children turn against them later on. And I would ask, can we feel so sure that there isn't a Satan who has many junior assistants? I'm going to keep reading, and here I want to ask, or look at these negotiations that Jesus and this demon has, and the outcome. So Jesus asks, I'm reading now, Jesus asks him, what's your name? My name is a Legion, he replied. You can kind of imagine a film producer having a lot of fun, being creative with trying to create a scene in which someone would say, "My name is Legion, for we are many." And he begged Jesus again and again not to send them out of the area. So many demons, and one of them, the chief negotiator, hoping for a good deal from Jesus. Let's see what kind of deal he's able to work out. A large herd of pigs was feeding in the nearby hillside. The demons begged Jesus, "Send us among the pigs, allow us to go into them." Jesus gave them permission, and the unclean spirits came out and went into the pigs. The herd, about 2,000 in number, rushed down the steep bank into the lake and were drowned. So yes, the demons had negotiated what they thought was a new place to live, and I think the fact that the 2,000 pigs were destroyed suggests that these demons were a powerful lot. Combined, they packed a punch. But it seems that they could not control the situation. Their success, in getting permission to move from one host into another, their success was short-lived. Within a few minutes, the new home, the new host of the demons, the herd of pigs, was destroyed, drowned. Now, fourth, I want to think about Jesus having outsmarted these demons, this legion. So we can know three things. First, the demons were strong enough to overcome any previous attempts by people to subdue them, but they were no match for Jesus. Jesus showed that he had by far the greater power over the demons. Second, Jesus had authority to evict the evil spirits. And third, it appears that Jesus even outsmarted these spirits. Now, I don't know if I'm reading something into the text that isn't meant to be there, but it seems to me that the legion of demons thought they had a new home, but in the end, they had nothing. Jesus outmaneuvered them. They were rendered homeless, unhoused. Sorry, friends, you're not wanted. Well, fifth, the town reacts. Back to the reading. Those tending the pigs ran off and reported this in the town and countryside, and the people went out to see what had happened. When they came to Jesus, they saw the man who had been possessed by the legion of demons sitting there, dressed and in his right mind, and they were afraid. Those who had seen it told the people what had happened to the demon-possessed man and told about the pigs as well. And then the people began to plead with Jesus to leave their region. Now, on the one hand, you and I might think that people would have been glad to see that Jesus had cured this dangerous demoniac. But Mark reports that the townspeople were afraid at the sight of the cured man. Now, this is a little bit puzzling, and I don't know if anyone or I myself have it totally figured out. Were they afraid because they thought that he might have a relapse and that things might get even worse for them when Jesus left? We can also notice the fact that these people were certainly not Jewish. And this is because, as far as I know, Jews would not raise pigs. They're unclean animals. One source that I looked up online says that even today it's illegal to raise pigs in Israel. So very likely these people are pagans, and they are a superstitious lot. They don't want any more crazy things happening. And who knows how much more damage might result if Jesus stays in town. Already a herd of pigs has been lost, which, would be a significant loss. Well, the townspeople reacted, but what about the man? And I think that one of the things going on here with respect to the man is that Jesus is rescuing a fellow Jew, not only from demons, but from his estrangement from his own Jewish people. This man, a Jew, has been living among the graves of pagans in a pagan town. And that is why I believe Jesus tells him, friend, go back to your own people. Go to your own people. Go back to the Jewish people. Here's how it goes. Jesus was getting back into the boat, and the man who had been demon-possessed begged to go with him. And Jesus did not let him go, or not let him come, but said, go home to your own people and tell them how much God has done for you, and how he has had mercy on you. And so the man went away and began to tell in the Decapolis how much Jesus had done for him, and all the people were amazed. The Decapolis is a sort of a sub-region. Decapolis is two Greek words together, meaning 10 cities. Deca, 10, polis, city. So he began to tell in that region called the Decapolis what Jesus had done for him. Now I want to end with a little reflection on the power of Jesus, and that this is an encouragement for us to not be afraid. This story of the healing of the demon-possessed man is by no means the last of the events that Mark recalls, in which Jesus acts with great power. In the next passage, a woman is healed from years of bleeding, and this happens without her even asking Jesus to be healed. She thought, if I can just touch his coat, probably the bottom of his coat, if I can just touch his robe. And it worked. She touches Jesus' coat and she's healed. And then even more spectacularly, in the very next story, Jesus raised the daughter of a Jewish leader of a local synagogue, raises this daughter of Jairus, raises her from the dead. Now in the reading, Jesus says to the people who are gathered at the house where this dead girl is resting, he says, she's just asleep. Now I think Jesus is trying to deflect a little bit of the glory that people would want to heap on him if they had totally been assured that he raised this girl from the dead. It's not yet time. It's early in Jesus' ministry. It's not yet time for the full glory of Jesus to become public knowledge. That time was not yet. It's going to come, but it's not yet. Anyway, right in the middle of the story of the raising of the daughter of Jesus, another great power story, this very interesting line. The friends of Jairus came to Jesus and said, your daughter has died, so don't bother having the teacher Jesus come anymore. And of course, Jairus would have been heartbroken, but Jesus turns to him and he says, don't be afraid, just believe. And this, I believe, is the key message that Mark wants to drive home in his gospel, and all of these accounts of Jesus' strength and his ability to deal with really tough problems. Don't be afraid, but instead believe. Jesus has the power over all evil, including the source of evil, Satan, and his friends of darkness. We may be hurt by these evil powers, but they will in the end not win. In Mark, we see Jesus as the ruler over all the spirits of terror, destruction, and the troubles that are brought into our world and into our own lives. In Revelation, the last book of the Bible, Jesus has authority and power over all the creation. Only Jesus can unlock the seals that will allow the story of the world, the history of the world, to unfold. And as he does this, he reigns in heaven where he hears our prayers. And when he returns to set all things right, he will bring heaven back to earth. All the demonic powers that try to defeat him and to destroy his work will be destroyed, never to return. Every tear of sorrow will be dried, and the glory of the Lord will fill the creation. Jesus' persecuted people will rejoice, and the whole creation will celebrate the end of a long time of living in shadow. Don't be afraid. Instead, believe. Listen, friends, we may go through some terrible times. In my church right now, we're losing someone who's just recently born, and will probably not get beyond the first few weeks of her life. Our hearts break. We stand with the family and this little one as they grieve. And yet, can't we still hear Jesus saying, don't be afraid. Instead, believe. Death is not the end. The end of all things, at the end of all things stands Jesus, and he is there with resurrection comfort and the healing of all wounds. The healing, wow, the healing of all wounds. So believe. Put your trust in Jesus Christ. And similarly, we may be troubled by world events. Wars and rumors of wars are always with us. People forecast one catastrophe after another. Economies can fail. Bombs can fall. The church in various places and in various times is persecuted terribly. Muslims of certain kinds and Marxists of certain kinds continue to try to take over the world. Climate change may do many of us in. We don't know. But in all these things, the voice of Jesus, don't be afraid. Instead, believe. The powerful and loving God revealed in Jesus Christ, his Son, remains. He is the same yesterday, today, and forever. His purposes will never fail. All things, the Apostle Paul once wrote, must work together for the good of those who love God. Friends, we must not cave into fear. Place your trust in God. Worship together. Pray together. Work for the good of the church together. Comfort each other. Work together for the good of your communities. Allow Jesus to renew your heart and mind. Share the good news of Jesus as widely and as competently as you can. Be of good cheer. Love one another as Christ loved us. Do not be afraid, but believe. Trust in Jesus.